we'll open the floor for questions for Coach.
Yes, you on this. I guess when you look back at this season, all the highs and lows that you guys went through to end it the way that you did, I guess what are you personally most proud of about just what this team accomplished?
Yeah, the thing I'm most proud of with this group is just how we hung together all the way through the end. And, not a lot of teams stayed intact going into the postseason. And I mean, even some NCAA tournament teams lost kids going into the postseason. So, the fact that we all stayed together, I think shows, first of all, the character of our guys and, the culture that was in place. And we found a way, even, especially when you ended the season with 5 consecutive losses. I mean, to stay together, that's saying something about your guys and your leadership. And, I'm really proud of how, specifically Bryce stood up in front of the team in the film room that day and said, guys, we're doing this thing. We're going to be all in, both feet in, and we're going to go down there to compete for a championship. And that's what we did, and found a way, through some adversity, being down double digits in a couple of those games, and found a way to rally, and went out on a high note. And that's what I'm most proud of. It would have been devastating, I think, for guys like Juwan and Bryce, who had such a positive impact on this program, to end if it would have ended with the 5 straight losses, and for them to go out, one of whatever it is, 4 teams that ended their season with a win and a good feeling and put a little bit of cheese in their pockets, Robin. That was a good thing. And again, I'm just proud of the guys for how they found a way to stay together, throughout the end of the year and end the year the way that we did.
You talked about going into the Crown, wanting to go into the offseason with a good taste. Now that you've got that, like what do you get from that, from having?
Yeah, it does. It gives you momentum, and a lot of people watched. When you look at the numbers on Fox, the viewership, I mean, it was very high. So it was for us to create positive momentum going into the off season was very important. And even as we did Zooms throughout that whole week, and continue on with the people that we're talking to, they watched it, and we played well. We had that thing moving offensively, defensively. I thought we had some really good stretches in that game, in those 4 games. And we found a way to put it together on both ends of the floor. And again, when you look at our last couple of years, I think we were top 3 in the league in wins in February and March. This year, obviously, was the exception to that, the way that it ended with the 5 straight losses. But to be able to win at the end of the year, similar to what we've done the last couple of years, to put ourselves in a pretty good position, I think one speaks volumes to your guys on how they wanted to go out. But as far as exposure, this was a great event for us. And when you look at the numbers, besides the NCAA tournament, I mean, it was by far the most viewership going into this. So that's important. It was important for the recruits that we had to see it. And I think you've seen some pretty good signings for us to replace some really good players. So I'm excited already going into next season. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a little break when we do get our roster finalized, which I don't know when that'll be. But I think you can hear it in my voice. I always this time of year get a little under the weather, but it was a fun tournament. It wasn't because I went out all night after the last game.
Hey, I don't know what you can and can't talk about as far as additions, but with what you've added and what you've lost through the portal thus far.
Can I talk about the 4 guys?
Yeah, 4 of them, yeah.
You sure?
Well, I guess
okay.
before you get into specifics, I guess just in totality of the additions and then the attrition that you've gone through, I guess, how do you feel that you've kind of survived the early part of portal year?
Yeah. I'll talk about the additions first of all with Price Sanford, obviously a guy that we've known well and that we recruited hard the first go around. And I've known the Sanford family for a long time. Peyton and Price both went to my camp when I was in Ames. And I think you saw the picture with Price on the graphic, and it's pretty cool. He was our number 1 guy when we recruited him coming out of Waukee, and it's a great addition. When you look at his numbers, they're very similar to what Peyton's were his first 2 years at Iowa, and what he did at the end of the season, the way he shot the ball. Obviously that's one area where we need to improve. Now, if we would have shot it like we did the last couple games of the Crown all year, we would have been competing against Florida, I think, in that last game. It was for us, yes, shooting was a big priority going into this off season. So, to get that position addressed, and somebody that can step in, and and again, they get to play with Rink, and that was attractive to a lot of the guys that we talked about. And you look at our shooting numbers and our paint point numbers; they were much higher the year before because you had a guy that had gravity. You had to guard Rink on the perimeter, and his ability to pass by leading us in assists was huge. You look at Jamarcus, what he did with with this year, the way he shot the ball, almost 40%. Was a starter all year, has been a starter in our program, knows everything about it, the offensive and the defensive systems. Great kid that that we're really excited to have back in our program this year. So those are a couple big pickups in our backcourt, and they can both handle the ball, and they can both initiate our offense for us. And that's what I liked about Price coming out of high school and watching him in AAU is he can handle the ball. He can play in pick and roll. He's not just a one-dimensional three-point shooter. He's got a lot in his game. He's more athletic, I think, than people realize. Our big guy, we'll just call him Oogie. He's a kid that averaged 17 points, over 7 rebounds in a good league. And in talking to people that coach against him, people that I really trust, and people on our staff that talk to people in that league, we're getting a really good player that can score it on the block. He was 3 for 3 from 3 against Minnesota in their game this year. Played actually some of his best basketball against the top competition. And another guy we need upfront help, and we need depth, and we need physicality, we need rebounding, and he can certainly help in that area. So yeah, I'm really excited about bringing Oogie on board as well.
Cooper.
Yeah, Will. Okay, so Will did. Yeah, so I'm excited about Will. I mean, he had a game where he had 7 threes this year at Air Force. And again, when you talk about our need of shooting and the guys that he's going to be playing with, and being able to play more in the spread this year with Rink and with Oogie and with BK, and he's a guy that can just straight stretch the floor. A great kid and a great family, and excited to have him on board as well.
When you have 4 commitments, in 5 days, 6 days like you had, how much does that validate sort of the message that you guys are giving to these guys about the state of the program, the culture, and all that stuff?
Yeah, it really it's been Zoom calls. That's where we've found a way to sell what we have to offer, and it was a lot of work when we were out in Vegas. When we were not in a film session, generally we were on a Zoom call, and we were on plenty of others that we didn't end up getting. But the guys that we've added, we are. First of all, they fit who we are. They fit the culture of our program, and they're all guys that have a very high level of skill to their game. And we're hoping to hear on a couple others here soon. We've got some other holes to fill certainly, but it's been a really good start for the beginning of the portal season. And we're going to keep working. Obviously, I'm still got a coach to hire. The search process is going well, and hope to get that finalized here soon.
When you're going through the portal and this time of year, do you have to decide what to value, what attributes you want to look for? I guess how do you strike that balance of what you're looking for and what kind of identity do you want to have next year?
Yeah, certainly we've been together a lot as a staff and talked about the needs that we have to address with the guys that we lose, and we lose all of our ball handling. Really the guys that facilitated offense for us with Bryce, with Raleigh, with Aaron. We're really the 3 guys that handled it, and all 3 had I thought productive years for us. So to have to replace that, yes, that was number 1, is to find somebody that can initiate offense for us. Now at the same time, you get Rink back, and I think everybody that's watched us play the year before knows what Rink was able to do to help us get into an offense. And before that, it was Derek, and I certainly had some guys at Iowa State that could handle the ball in the front court, so that's very helpful. You don't maybe need a pure point guard per se, and we've got a lot of guys that can initiate. Kale Jacobson certainly showed that he can get the ball up the floor and get us into an offense as well. Sam, had times as well, and so we I guess to answer your question, Wilson, we have identified what we need as a team. Front court depth was a big part of that with Oogie, and then shooting. And again, getting Price, I really think he's one of the best shooters on the market, and couldn't be excited about all 4 of those guys.
Right,
With this last week,
getting back to that trophy and what your team accomplished over the past week, what did that championship mean for this program, and some of the emotions you felt Sunday night, do you still feel them 3 days later?
Yeah, I do. It's special. I mean, when you look back on the history of the program, one of the best years was when they won the NIT championship, and you just don't have an opportunity a lot of times at the end of the year to go out on top as a winner. And the goal obviously for our team was to make it to the NCAA tournament. It didn't happen, and for us to be able to go out and win a championship, especially the way we did it. I'll say this, the Husker fans were incredible down there. And, if it weren't for Nebraska, I don't know how well attended that event would have been, but, it was fun to share it with so many people, passionate people that had a huge role in us coming back. I mean, I think you could see it on the TV feed. We had a lot of people there that were very instrumental during that, whatever it was, 42-17 run to finish that game. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. This event is going to continue to take off, I'm telling you. And to be the winner of the inaugural Crown tournament is something that we're all going to look back on. And shoot, I don't know, maybe they'll bring us back one day when we're older for me. But when those guys get a little older and recognize this team, and to have back-to-back 20-win seasons, that hasn't happened since the '90s. So it's pretty cool. And the way it ended, again, I'm so proud of our guys, and I'm happy for them the way it went out. Because say what you want. And we talked about this going into the tournament. The feeling when we won that Hawaii tournament, that was great, and it was awesome. The guys celebrated in Honolulu after that game, and it's just something you share with your teammates when you win a championship. I still talk to the guys I won a state championship with at Ames High School back in '91, and it's just something that you don't forget. Whatever it is, NCAA, NIT, Crown, CIT. I mean, those are special moments.
With the week that Kale had, obviously a great week for him, but does that change like the vision that you had or have for him moving forward within the program?
Well, I've talked a lot about Kale and the confidence that I have in him, and it's just one of those situations. Like when you look at Sam and Jamarcus, they really got their opportunity when Vandemel and Gary went down a couple years ago. And then when you look at this year and even last year, we didn't really have anybody go down at his position where he was going in there. Now I put him in that Arizona State game because of the couple weeks that he had leading into that, and I was going to give him minutes regardless. And he went in there and had a huge impact on the Arizona State win, and then we started him because I felt that he deserved it, and certainly it paid off for us. And the thing that he did, knocking down the shots, I mean, that three he hit on the pull-behind play when we started stretching, and then the floater that he hit at, I think to put it to 8 or 10. And I could not be happier for Kale because of the type of kid he is. He's never one time complained. He worked all year for that opportunity, and he gets it, and he took full advantage of it. And yes, he belongs in our rotation. There's no doubt about it. He showed that, and going into next season. And the thing about Kale, when you say what is he, what number is he? He's not a number. He's a player. He's a basketball player. He's a hybrid. I mean, he can play any spot on the floor, and he knows every spot on the floor. He knows the other team's plays. Even on the bench, if he wasn't in the game, he still would call out what the other team was running. And I'll never forget this in the UCLA game. He told Raleigh the exact play, and Raleigh had his thumb up his butt, and he ran out to the corner, and ended up contesting a shot that was a huge play in that game because Kale knew what the action was. So, he was phenomenal, and I'm proud of him, and I'm looking forward to our future together.
With Jamarcus, how different are conversations and Zoom calls with a player that you're familiar with that knows the program compared to the other?
Yeah, I mean, he talked about, he had a great year, and I think it was beneficial for him to go and start and be a guy that they went to in over the course of games and over the course of the season, and that's going to benefit him coming back here now. But the great thing about it is he knows exactly what to expect coming back, and not only the offense, but he knows the defense and the pace that we want to play with. I mean, he was, when I look back on it, the Indiana game, the tournament games that we had in the Big Ten, I mean, he was really good and really effective and played his best, I thought, at the end of the season. So we missed him a lot this year, and everybody to a man in our program is excited to bring him back on board, and he's excited as well. I do think he missed some elements of the program, and getting him back is exciting for all of us.
We've all seen the value of Rink. Did you sense some guys you've talked to in the portal, like Price maybe, saw like how he can benefit him too?
Yeah, and Price obviously played against Rink last year and saw what he can do. But believe me, every Zoom, every style of play edit had Rink on it because of what he can do, his passing ability, how it opens up the lane, and we generally don't clog up the paint. With the big down there, and if you got a guy that could cut, we missed that. I mean, we get 3-4 layups a game a year ago because of Rink's ability to play make, and to have him back, we showed everybody. You show them what your roster looks like and who they're going to be playing with, and Rink certainly was a big part of that because of his versatility on the basketball court. And I'll say this, you know what, when I look back on the tournament run, you know, Andrew Morgan had some great moments for us, as good as he had all season. Braxton Mia had some really good moments for us out there as well at the 5 spot. And, you know, again, even Kale on some small ball lineups as well. So I was really pleased with the production that our bigs gave us at the end of the year. But to get Rink back next season, it just brings a whole new element to your offense. I think, you know, when you have a stretch, whatever it is, 4 or 5, that can knock down shots out there, it's just a game changer for your offense. And I think you saw that with our numbers a year ago.
With the NIL money that you get from the Crown, I know you don't get any, but,
Yeah,
I think
that ain't right, Amy.
I think you're doing okay.
Not with these tariffs. Sorry, go ahead.
How does that get divided? Is that like, does the Crown decide that? Do you decide that? Was that conversations that you had before? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, the players will split from this year's roster. Will split that evenly, and you know it's almost like think of it as a playoff bonus. You know, for the guys that were part of it this year, from your scout team guys all the way, you know, to your guys sitting out. Everybody had a part in this thing, and you know the guys that even you know the Jeff Grace and Henry Burt and you know Nick and Braden and Justin. You know the guys that played the majority of their minutes in the scout team this year. That's invaluable what those guys do for your program. So yes, it will be evenly split between the entire roster.
And then with the international guys, they don't get any, do they?
We'll figure that out. Yeah.
What does this offseason look like for Barricade? What are the top priorities for you?
Well, he's in the weight room right now, and you know, I think a big thing is with his body, getting that in shape, and you know, the best of his ability. Obviously, he had 2 injuries this year. One early with the groin, and he struggled after that one. Got himself into great shape. Was playing his best basketball, and then obviously after the ankle injury, you know, that really affected him. So the biggest thing is getting his body back right. And again, he fully understands that, and he's committed to. You know, getting back in there right away, you know, or we'll give a couple of the guys off. I'm going to meet with the strength and nutrition staff tomorrow, and we're going to set a plan up for the rest of the spring semester. But yes, I mean, we've got a couple guys that'll be mostly weight room stuff, and we've got a couple guys that will do individual skill work. But, you know, for Burke, you know, it's going to be a very important offseason for him, and he's committed to it, and we've talked a lot about it. And, you know, first and foremost, it's getting healthy. It's getting his body back to where we can put a load on it. And again, I'm excited about what he brings to the table because of versatility and because of what he did when we were maybe playing our best basketball of the season, when I think we'd won 6 straight. And then obviously you saw the struggles when he went down, you know, from there. But, you know, he's going to be an important part of what we do.
I know the injuries had a lot to do with it, but how much did confidence play in with Berkey as well? Because it seemed like once he finally got his groove going, he gets hurt, and then it's almost like he had a reset.
Yeah, it's a big thing, Robin, and it's a big thing for everybody. I mean, confidence is somebody that played this game at a pretty decent level. It really is, man. When you're confident, the game is a heck of a lot easier than when you're struggling in that area. So, you know, he was a really confident player. That Ohio State game was so much fun, and you know, of course, the way it works out, he goes down unfortunately, and then, you know, had a couple tough ones. I think he had the, you know, 0 against Michigan, and now it's all of a sudden in your head, as opposed to hitting 3 against Ohio State, where you have that confidence. But you know, a lot of that was affected by you know, you lose rhythm when you can't practice. You lose rhythm when you don't get the reps. Full speed reps. You can do all you want on the treadmill and the, you know, the Alter G, the anti-gravity, but it just doesn't simulate, you know, being out there on the court. And, you know, it is confidence in this game, man. It's a funny thing. When you got it, you know, you can rule the world, and when you don't, man, it's hard.
Brett, some of the pictures and videos following Sunday's win of Jawan, there's so much joy on his face. What did it mean to you for him to be the MVP?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. And, you know, when you look at the 2 tournaments we won this year, Bryce gets the MVP, and you can see the joy in his face and the meme of him holding the thing over his head. And then, you know, Jawan, you know, sitting on the floor with the ball, and, you know, the crown. I think he went out when he got back and he took the ball with him. But
He said it's on his beanbag.
it's on his beanbag. So anyway, but you know what he meant. I mean, you know, he was the heart and soul of this thing for the last couple of years. So for him to go out like that on top, you know, is special for me because of everything that he did for this program. And you know, again, I know I talked about this after the game. You want to leave it in a better place than where he found it, and certainly Jawan and Bryce were a big part of that. And hopefully they set the tone for something that can, you know, be sustained here and have success for a long time. But you know, those 2 guys are going to go down as 2 of the better ones in the program's history. I mean, Bryce, having the all-time single season scoring record is pretty cool for him. But you know, again, Juwan, he was Mr. Everything for us, and the leadership. That's the thing that stands out to me is his voice. And you know, when he came out of that locker room after getting hit in the melon, and you know, I put him right back in the game, and he was phenomenal down the stretch, and did it in typical Juwan fashion. Now, the one thing that I'm really happy for Juwan, he shot over 34% from three and was unbelievable in that stretch run, and he came in here as a 20% three-point shooter in his 2 years at Alabama. So that's something when you look at it, you know, to become for your shooting percentage to go up by 14 percentage points speaks to the work that he put in, and again, just happy for him. And again, I'll do anything for that kid, for all the guys, you know, even, you know, Gavin and Nick were big parts of this thing for us as well, for their contributions. So, you know, you always, with the relationship part of it, you know, try to help these guys as much as you can. But, you know, Juwan, again, special year.
How much did the past week in Vegas change the way you'll like perceive this and look back on this season?
Yeah, much, very fondly, I would say. Wilson, I don't know if that's a good word for it or not, but it is. Again, when you can win a championship, you know, there's an NIT banner in Pinnacle Bank Arena. So, you know, to win this event the way that we did, and, you know, after a tough ending, we didn't want to go out that way. So, you know, again, I give our guys all the credit. They deserve it, and they're the reason that we ended up with this thing here.
When you bring up the NIT banner, you gonna hang a crown one?
We'll see. I mean, we'll see what administration does, but, you know, again, when you look at the numbers and, you know, the teams and the high majors and that Boise game, I'm telling you, Boise is a hell of a team. Might have been as good a game as we played all year, one of the most complete games, certainly, that we played over the course of the season. So, you know, he beat, you know, two Big 12 teams in that run and a Big East team. Now, some of them had lost a couple players, but, you know, you still got to go out there and compete and win the game against talented basketball players. And even some of the guys that sat, I mean, you look at the kid, Malik Mack, you know, maybe he doesn't have that role if there are other guys playing. You know, you look at, you know, the two guys that put up the huge numbers, you know, Johnson and, you know, certainly number 0 in the last game for UCF. I mean, those guys' roles expanded and they took advantage of it, similar to what Kale did for us. And, you know, it was a great way to cap off the year that ended very disappointing with that game against Iowa on senior night.
You mentioned Frager as one of the young guys that, you know, progressed and developed throughout the year. How much does the dial get turned up now entering this offseason, and it's, you know, go time to get ready?
Yep, he was one of the first guys in the gym yesterday getting a workout in. He's in there right now again, and I am really excited about Braden Frager and his future. He is a kid that can flat out score it, great athleticism. He was an elite offensive rebounder for us all year, and I've talked about this. There was times that we really did contemplate pulling his red shirt and putting him out there because of everything that he did, mostly his physicality. And then, you know, after that middle of the year slide, then we won 6 in a row, and it just didn't feel like it was fair, you know, at the end of the year to do that. So, yes, I could not be more excited for Braden Frager and the impact that he's going to have on our program.
Hey, real quick with that, I guess with the way that the landscape of roster management in college basketball has come, do you change how you evaluate high school recruits? And then with that, redshirting? I mean, does redshirting become something you can even do anymore?
Well, we did it with a couple guys this year, obviously, right. With 3, with Justin was the other one, with Nick and with Braden. And, you know, listen, a guy that we haven't talked a lot about is Quentin Rhymes. That kid's a hell of a basketball player. And, you know, the way that we've always approached it is we're going to come in, we're going to compete. I never promise anything. I think if people do promise, guess what? They're promising the other guy that they're doing their calls with or their visits with as well. So I've never done that. And we're going to come in here and we're going to compete, and the guys that deserve the minutes are going to be on the floor. I just think that's the only way to do it and the fairest way to do it. So, you know, our freshman, who we really like next year, is going to. You take that, James? You good? Okay. So, but, you know, our guys, you know, again, that's what I love is I think, you know, the competitiveness, the iron sharpens iron, and, you know, we're going to come out here and have good individual work and strength work the rest of this year and then start competing again in June. All right, thanks, guys.